What we've seen overnight, obviously many communities had a very sunny, fine day yesterday. Went to bed, but overnight and waking up this morning, they're finding that there are some strong winds and some significant rainfalls that are happening right across the east coast, from up in the north at Coffs Harbour, right through down to even the New South Wales Victorian border. So it's a very significant, widespread, dynamic and complex system. We do expect that we will see wind gusts in pockets of up to 125 kilometres per hour. We do expect that we will see rainfall from moderate to heavy in many areas, from 50 millimetres right through to 150 millimetres, and in some pockets isolated rainfalls of in excess of 200 millimetres. Whilst the impacts at the moment are more in the mid-north coast area, we are seeing impacts already in Sydney and Illawarra and down the coast. As this system tracks southwards, we will expect to see greater impacts from mid-afternoon today into tonight and tomorrow for the Sydney, Illawarra and South Coast areas. This system will continue to move southward and likely remain active until at least Thursday. So for communities in New South Wales along the coast, you can expect the most impacts from midday today right through tomorrow.
Now, in terms of those winds, it's likely that we'll see some damaging winds of around 60 to 70 kilometres an hour and gusts of about 90 to 110 kilometres an hour. That includes across parts of the ranges, but also nearer the coast. This includes southern parts of the mid-north coast, the Hunter, Sydney and down through the Illawarra and parts of the south coast. Now, as we start to see that low pressure system deepen further today and move a little bit further south, the threat of destructive wind gusts is going to increase. So what we're talking about here is destructive wind gusts of around 125 kilometres an hour being possible right along the coastal fringe, and we're expecting that that risk is going to shift southwards towards parts of Sydney and potentially parts of the Illawarra, even as far south as Jervis Bay or Ulladulla. Now, this system is quite dynamic and quite vigorous, and we're expecting conditions to escalate through the afternoon. What this means is that's where we're looking at that wind potential increasing, but also that threat of heavy rainfall increasing. This is most likely for areas across the Illawarra as well as parts of Sydney. This means that we have a greater flash flood risk with potential for some fairly heavy falls to develop over a short period of time, and we could see some of those falls in excess of 100 or 120 millimetres over the course of 3 to 6 hours. So that is one thing to be prepared for, but what we will see in terms of some of these conditions easing is once we start to see that low weaken and shift further offshore. So in terms of the timing of that, we are still expecting the low to move further south through tonight, and that rainfall threat will shift down towards the southern parts of the New South Wales coast, but then we start to see numerous low pressure centres within a broader area of low pressure across the Tasman Sea, and that's when we'll start to see conditions ease in New South Wales. So at this stage, the earliest that we'll see some of those warnings being cancelled from the weather side of things is going to be potentially later Wednesday or more likely on Thursday, with that wind threat persisting into Thursday.